Good Sunday morning. I'm Barbara Kay, here with Susan Pertnoy. Welcome to Mosaic, Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County's weekly news magazine show. Mosaic explores Jewish topics here in the Palm Beaches and around the world.
Each year, a few individuals are selected to be honored by the Jewish community for a variety of reasons. Their advocacy for Israel, their unique leadership style, or in some cases, their unwavering generosity to the Jewish people.
On this episode of Mosaic, we'll hear the stories of 5 such leaders, starting with the Honorable Anne Brown as a woman of valor by the Mandel JCC.
Then we'll sit down with Vivian Lieberman and David Naftali, named the Advocates of the Year by Albert Jewish Family and Children's Services.
And then we'll speak with Arlene Kaufman and Sandy Backler, a husband and wife duo, being honored by the Jewish Federation this year for their groundbreaking philanthropic efforts.
We'll be right back with Mosaic after this brief commercial break.
From empowering Jewish college students to stand up to anti-Israel activity on campus, to enabling seniors and Holocaust survivors to age with dignity, transforming, inspiring, saving, Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County is doing all of this here and around the world.
They say that caring for the elderly is a profession of the heart. As the director of home health care at Morse Life, I know that to be true. When I see an older person feeling safe and secure at home, I know I've done my job. To make a difference, to show compassion, dignity, and respect, it's not just our job, it's our mission.
Morse Life Home Health Care.
Morse Life Health System, honoring senior living.
We're here with the Honorable Anne Brown. Welcome, Anne.
Thank you.
You're a philanthropist, an activist, and now officially a woman of valor. How did you start your Jewish journey?
Well, I started it a little reluctantly. Of course, I was living in Washington, D.C. with my parents, and we were a Jewish family, and I was part of Washington Hebrew congregation. And then I went to Smith College. And I didn't join Hillel. I kind of wanted to be mixed in with the group. I wasn't ashamed of being Jewish, but I just didn't want to advertise it. And Donald's family, my husband's family, had a woman come who was going to Smith, and she was in Hillel, and they told me to look her up, and I never did. And when she married the son of Ben Shahn, one of my favorite artists, and everyone in the family was invited to the wedding except me.
Oh.
And I thought to myself, I'm getting a little sign from a higher power, from my God here. It's time to step up and be proud of my Jewish religion. And I have done that and been a proud Jew since that time.
Well, you're also a very philanthropic Jewish person. You are our Woman of Valor for the Mandel JCC this year, and you've donated the Teacher Resource Center at the Mandel JCC. Why did you choose our community to be philanthropic?
Well, first of all, we live in Palm Beach Gardens at Frenchman's Creek, and I started coming to the JCC because I play a lot of bridge, not as well as I like, but I just liked everything that I heard about that they were doing. I was especially impressed with Camp Shalom. I like what people do for children, and I like the idea that the Jewish community was taking care of their own and reaching out to those children who couldn't afford to go to camp. And that really impressed me. So we wanted to do something here at our Jewish Community Center for children. I've made my career helping children, particularly the safety of children.
Yes, you have.
And the quality of life. So this fit right into it.
As a matter of fact, you were appointed by President Clinton, I think for 2 terms, as the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission's chair.
That's right.
Could you tell us about that?
Well, I started out doing consumer advocacy in the city of Washington and started a grassroots group which was funded by the old Liberals and Americans for Democratic Action. They wanted to get a lot of press, and I had a press background. And I also had a father who was a merchant, and I learned about buying and selling, and I thought the consumer needs a good deal, and I then became particularly interested in children. My daughter Laura almost swallowed a red bead from a paint set, and inside in little letters it said poison, but Laura couldn't read. She was 3 years old, and I wondered, were all toys safe? What about all the children's products? And I became an activist in that. We had the first children's product surveys at Christmas and in the summer, and I got to know the Clintons because Hillary was very interested in everything that was done for families and children. So when I was an outside critic of that agency, I didn't think they did very much. And when the Clintons were elected, when he was the president-elect, I saw them at a party and I said, Hillary, I'd like to be in your administration as chairman of the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission. I went home and wrote a one-pager on what it could do, sent it there, and the next day somebody from her agency called me and said, Mrs. Clinton wants to support you as chairman, and that was the beginning of that journey.
As a matter of fact, you really put that agency on the map. You went on the Today Show. You had a tremendous amount of media coverage because it was such an important job that you did.
Well, you know, the industry says that when I open the refrigerator door and the light goes on, I do a 30-second sound bite. Yes, I think that publicity is very important. Can you imagine what a deterrent it was to manufacturers that they knew that every week I would be on the Today Show with a toy or a product that might have harmed a child? That got a lot more done than regulation.
It certainly did. It is amazing. And you and your husband are very philanthropic in Washington, D.C. You started out in the arts. And what is your newest venture?
There's a wonderful group called A Wider Circle, and they give furniture to people who are just out of welfare and in their own home or apartment, but people didn't have beds to sleep on. So we funded something called Brown's Beds. We got the mattress industry and the bed industry to give us very cheaply beds and mattresses, and there's a wonderful program now called Brown's Beds. The people at A Wider Circle are simply fabulous, run by a marvelous Jewish man.
Oh, that's I didn't realize
Yep.
that. Well, we're very fortunate to have you here in the Palm Beach area because you've become extraordinarily involved in the Lord's Place. And
By the way, that's not religious. It has nothing to do with religion. A homeless man was brought in and given a home, and he said, this is the Lord's Place. But I want to make sure everybody knows the Lord's Place deals with homelessness. It has a woman's house, it has a man's house, it helps people just getting out of prison. It helps people to recover from addiction, not one of these awful houses, but very seriously, so that they can have a life. And I'm very proud to be on their board. I also was a founding member of the Jewish Women's Foundation and one of their founding trustees, and I've been on a whole bunch of boards here.
And your Federation's Line of Judah.
And Federation's Line of Judah. I'm very proud of the different things that we've done. I'm also on the board of El Sol Community Resource Center in Jupiter, and when I'm on a board, I work hard. You know, we've been very lucky, my husband and I, so it is incumbent upon us to give back.
And we at the Mandel JCC are very fortunate to have you, and you are truly a woman of valor. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm thrilled with that award.
Coming up, we'll sit down with Vivian Lieberman and David Naftali, named the Advocates of the Year by Albert Jewish Family and Children's Service.
The patients who come to us after illness or injury are often in pain and fearful of losing their independence. I make it my mission to treat them like family. I listen to their concerns. I help them heal and gain strength. My goal is for them to not need us. To know that I help them, there's no better feeling.
Moore's Life Short-Term Rehabilitation.
Morse Life Health System, honoring senior living.
When I was young, I went to Jewish summer camp, traveled to Israel, and participated in leadership development groups. Today I'm teaching my children that being part of the Jewish community helps keep our heritage and traditions alive and vibrant, and can be fulfilling, exciting, and fun.
At the age of 90, I started a second career, delivering meals to homebound seniors. Because I'm a senior myself, I know how tough it can get. If somebody is in trouble and needs help, we need to be there for them. As Jews, it's who we are. It's what we do.
When my family needed help, we turned to the Federation, and they were there for us. How good it was for us to know that we are not alone.
Community, like every gift, counts. Together, we can ensure a vibrant Jewish future. Federation and you, changing the world together.
Hi, we're here with Vivian Lieberman and David Naftali, this year's award winners for the Advocates of the Year for Jewish Family and Children's Services. Congratulations, both of you.
Thank you.
It's really quite an honor. Vivian, where do you get your passion from? You've been a leader in this community on so many different levels for so long.
You know, I started my Jewish journey going on a mission to Israel in 1993. I lived in Detroit at the time, and I was working, so I didn't have time to be involved. But when I moved to Florida, I started meeting people in the different agencies. And the community has been so wonderful to me. I've been involved probably in every aspect of the community. I was chair of Women's Philanthropy for 3 years. I'm on the Jewish Family Service Board. I'm on CPAC, which is the Community Planning and Allocations. And this community has done so much for me personally that I have a passion that I only want to give, because I get a lot more from giving than I get from getting.
What a beautiful sentiment.
Right.
David, what about you?
Well, I think it started with my parents. Most of us have parents that are in our generation that were deeply involved and deeply concerned. In my parents' case, they didn't have money, so they dedicated their time. And for me, as far as how I got directly involved, and I mentioned this at the Advocates Luncheon, I had to find out that I was wrong to really get involved. My bubby needed to get into the Hebrew home, and both my parents and my sister, unfortunately, were sick at the time, so I was tasked with going to the home. And I was told to get in line, and it was going to be about a 2 or 3 year wait. My grandmother was 82 years old, thought she was financially independent, and went through her money very, very quickly. My parents had to take out a loan, and I was devastated and angry. And then I got a call about 6 months later, just coincidentally, from somebody who was operationally involved at the home, a guy named Frank Ballesteros, who actually changed my life. He asked me to come out, and I knew that in the Jewish community that various vendors had dedicated given their service. So I knew that's what he wanted, and I wanted to tell him to no way in hell.
Walk away, right.
Okay? And as it turned out, my meeting with him turned out to be an epiphany. He walked me through a loving, giving, 250-bed complex. They were building a second one, and he told me that the reason that there was no room was because there wasn't enough money. And so it made me realize that I was wrong, and he encouraged me to get involved. I ended up getting on the board. I served for 10 years. I then got on the board of the equivalent of Jewish Family Services in Baltimore for 10 years on the executive board, seeing the wonderful work that they did. And my mother always used to say to me, David, if you give when you're alive, it's gold. If you give when you're dead, it's lead. And as I ended, I said, giving when you're alive is gold.
That is really, really, really true. Vivian, why did you choose to be so involved with Jewish Family and Children's Services?
When my husband was diagnosed with early onset dementia, I didn't know where to turn because it's very challenging. And I went to Jewish Family Service. I needed some counseling. And I met Jenny Frumer, who is now the executive director, but at the time she counseled me and she helped me so much. And then when my husband really took a turn for the worse, I went to Jewish Family Service and they recommended a caregiver place that I have used for my caregivers, and it was wonderful. And they have just embraced me, and I love this agency, and I'm very, very involved. So I wanted to give back to them what they gave to me.
Well, you certainly did.
Right.
So it's very admirable.
Thank you.
David, you're very involved in global organizations. Where does your passion for Israel, where does your passion come from?
Again, started with my parents. They were ardent Zionists. In 1998, my youngest daughter came back from a trip to Israel and said she wanted to, she needed to get a job. And I said, why, honey? And she said, I need to go on the March of Living. I need to learn more. And I'll condense it. We ended up going on that journey as well, and as did my mother and father-in-law.
That had been very powerful.
The most impactful and life-defining moment or 2 weeks of my life. And I made a commitment when I was standing there at Auschwitz, not on my watch, that I was going to get involved and that I was going to put my time. I've been a member of AIPAC for 36 years, but I wrote checks. I didn't lobby, I didn't do things. And then I realized how important advocacy was and how important Israel is, not just because it's Israel, but because it impacts Jews around the world, and it is the only Jewish state.
And in light of that and what is going on today, it's really imperative that we continue to advocate for Israel and for Jews in general. So we have leaders like you, and we're on the right path. So thank you very much for joining us.
You're
and
welcome.
Congratulations on your award.
Thank you
We're
so
both
much.
humbled, and it was what a
Pleasure
pleasure
to share it.
to share
Right,
it with a
right.
wonderful woman.
Right, and same here. It was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Coming up, we'll speak with Arlene Kaufman and Sandy Backler, a husband and wife duo being honored by the Jewish Federation this year for their groundbreaking philanthropic efforts.
From empowering Jewish college students to stand up to anti-Israel activity on campus, to enabling seniors and Holocaust survivors to age with dignity, transforming, inspiring, saving, Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County is doing all of this here and around the world.
Welcome, Sandy Backler and Arlene Kaufman, two recipients of the Jean Levy Achievement Award. I'm proud of you. Even though I know you very well, I know I'm proud of you anyway.
But we're following a good leader.
You know, something would be interesting for our viewers to understand your Jewish journey. I'd like to know about it, how it happened, what put you in that place, and why you're so passionate about all these things. You
Me
go
first?
Sure,
Arlene, you want to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I have no Jewish educational background at all.
You don't?
No.
It's a funny story.
Because we lived in Washington, D.C., and my mother's parents lived in Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay.
And Sunday school was on Sunday. And Sunday was also the day that we went to Baltimore to be with my mother's parents.
Okay.
So my Sunday school education lasted about 1 month. She tried for a few weeks.
Okay.
because we were too late for the soup. So that was the end of my Jewish education.
Oh, right. Let me hear yours.
Mine was a little bit more involved in that. Being Jewish was always important to my parents and my family, both my mother's and my father's. I have a vivid memory when I was very small. My father used to take me on Friday afternoon and carry me into a cupboard in our kitchen where I would put coins into a pushka, which had a map of Israel on it, the blue box.
Explain what a pushka is.
That was the pushka was the charity box that was used by JNF in those days, still is, but it had a map of Israel, a different map than today is, because this goes back a lot of years. And every Friday afternoon, my father insisted, before my mother lit candles, that we would put coins into there for Friday, so there was always money there for the Jewish people.
Did you understand what they were doing, though?
I grew up understanding that part of it. My father always focused on the holidays. They were not religious, but they were traditional. They were culturally Jewish, not Orthodox and religiously Jewish. But being Jewish was an important part of their life. This is with this time of the year when Hanukkah comes up. I still remember when I was a kid that on the first day of Hanukkah, I got a brown quarter.
A brown quarter?
And the second day, I got 2 brown quarters. About the time I was bar mitzvah, Barbara, I learned that they were pennies. But until then, I didn't know.
Oh, you really thought you had something really big.
Jewish culture was always important to my parents, and the observance of the holidays, while not religiously observant, it was always something that we did. And then as I grew older to become my own person, I got involved in a lot of different Jewish activities, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, from the synagogue to B'nai B'rith to all of the things that were Jewish in my 20s. I went to Israel in 1966, 50 years or so ago, and I came back from Israel in 66. The following year, 1967, was the war in Israel. I went to the bank, I borrowed $1,000, I took it into the Federation, and they grabbed me with both arms, and I haven't been out of there since. I think that I found that this was a passion that the Federation in Baltimore and what we're doing here, to me, the Federation movement is the center, or is the address of the Jewish community. It's the place where, while other things exist, and we support a lot of Jewish causes, it's the Federation that is the nucleus that brings it all together. And being involved with the nucleus is where you want to be. So the Federation to me has always been important for all my life.
Yeah. You know, there's got to be an element of trust, though. The Federation is some place that you feel does something and really makes a difference.
I think that over the years, there's been times when, back in the 70s, I got involved through the Federation with the Russian community. In Baltimore, I suddenly found myself involved in what is now the Jewish Vocational Service. That year, I became president of that agency. We had 618 Russians coming into Baltimore, and with volunteers and 2 staff people, we had them all working by the end of the year. So I grew up in a community where volunteerism was important. People focused on what was being accomplished, and those kind of efforts, or whether it had been for bringing in Russians or later on times helping Ethiopians, and being in Washington when there was the march for Russia, and seeing Natan Sharansky up there in front of thousands and thousands of people. These have all been parts of my life. But the Federation, one way or the other, was the ball that brought it all together.
Well, the both of you, you've both been involved. You both were presidents of the Federation, both involved in working for the Federation. You did something last year which I think is rather remarkable. You gave a grant, both of you, and you offered the opportunity to match that grant to the community, which did a very big thing. What made you do that? Do you want to answer that, or you want to let him answer it?
Let him answer it.
Okay.
We had made a gift to the Federation in January. After that, we were invited to sit down with Ray Golden, our chairman, and Mike Hoffman, who was trained in Baltimore from my community. And we said, we want to see the Federation get back to what it was. It had lost a lot with the economy over the years and with other shortcomings, changes in staffing. And we wanted to bring it back. And we said, how can we help? I thought they were going to say, here's a bunch of things to do and share and work on. And they said, would you consider a challenge grant? I have to tell you, Barbara, I've never been a big supporter of challenge grants because I never knew they really worked.
You didn't have any trust in it, is that what you're saying?
I did not trust it. And I remember saying, what do you think this would cost us? And they threw out a number. They said, if we get lucky, it'll cost this level. And we said, okay, we'll do it until June 30th because we want to see we want people to give their gifts early. We want to know where we're going. We want to improve. We didn't want to make a whole year of fundraising. And the staff and volunteers came together and were going out and saying, Joe Cohn, or whoever it was, we appreciate what you've done in the past. By the way, if you increase your gift, we have it matched. It'll double the value. Those people work like hell. Arlene and I have had people who were volunteers and solicitors have come up to us and said, thank you for giving us the strength to go out and say, we want you to improve your gift because we can double its value. We have people who said, I did it just to see if we could get you to really give more money. It turned out to be a lot more money than we expected, but you know what? As the June rolled around, the two of us felt, this was a blessing.
You had to be full of pride because you increased the Federation gift enormously this year, and I want to thank the both of you. You know, you're really two special people. It's wonderful that a husband and wife should be honored together. I'm so proud of you. Thank you very much for all you do.
Well, it's a blessing for us. I did not know Jean Levy. Arlene did, and certainly you knew her very well. And I think we're falling into a rather unique club of people. We're following you, so we feel pretty good about it.
Thank you so much.
Coming up, final thoughts on Mosaic.
Thousands of community members come together through programs and services provided by Federation and our local partner agencies to create a vibrant and vital community in Palm Beach County. Together, we can ensure a vibrant Jewish future. Federation and you, changing the world together.
Barbara, we're so fortunate in this community to have such passionate, giving philanthropists that care.
They do, and it's wonderful, makes my heart warm, and I feel very good about the fact that the Federation has developed this kind of a community here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, and join us again when we take another look into our Jewish world. Goodbye from Mosaic.